This is potentially a massive, massive oof right here, if it is true. If it is true, but it looks like Crunchyroll may have potentially been breached, and 100 gigabytes of information of its customer has pretty much been given out. Has pretty much been pulled out of their services, which again could be really devastating. But I want to stress before we even start anything here, this is alleged. This is a claim made by a group claiming that they have actually got this information and they're putting it out there. And then people are basically confirming that data. People on the outside are kind of looking at the data and going, yeah, that looks like that kind of checks. It kind of checks with a recent, data breach that happened that was actually reported. But the unfortunate aspect here is that we don't have a confirmation with Crunchyroll. But unlike most times where I like to wait a little while for, some sort of confirmation to kind of do my own due diligence, not to, mislead my viewers, this is one of the situations where I think people should know immediately, one way or another, just so they can kind of cover their own butts. We're talking about personal information. We're talking about potentially credit card information, passwords, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's good for people to know, even if it ends up being false, to at least be aware and, be concerned, watch your stuff. And, if you see anything suspicious, you'll know where it's coming from potentially. So let's actually dive into the news. International Cyber Digest reported breaking Crunchyroll breached through outsourcing partner in India. Now, I've seen some other reports about this particular group. I don't know why they're saying India unless it's their call center, their support center that is in India. It's not necessarily an India company. I actually believe it's based out of Canada. A threat actor infiltrated data from Crunchyroll's ticketing system and also managed to pull 100 gigabytes of personally identifiable customer analytics data. So yeah, right here they're stating this is a ticketing system. So apparently this is a group that is doing like their support or whatever, and it was accessed through there, and it had access to, again, at that point, Crunchyroll services, pulling 100 gigabytes of information from them. We've analyzed sample data, and it includes IP addresses, email addresses, credit card details, and more. Again, this is where I'm jumping in here ahead of things, even if this hasn't been confirmed by Crunchyroll, if they ever will. That's the unfortunate thing here. If they ever will. It is unfortunate that if this is true, Crunchyroll should be telling its customers. I believe there's even law that requires that. If there's a breach, they have to tell customers so they're aware, hey, your information's out there. They have to let you know. So that kind of gives me a little bit of pause here as if this is true because, again, they should be doing this. They should be telling people. But again, this lays out what exactly it is. One being IP addresses, which is, yes, kind of unfortunate for some people. This is a very, risky for their security and whatnot. Email addresses, probably not the most like, oh my gosh, shock face kind of situation here. Like email addresses out there is kind of common. It's usually the problem is that email addresses being attached to all the other information sort of gives you a web of information for, again, stealing identities. If you have an email address, you have credit card information, you're getting all the details together to create an account and start charging stuff. Now, the problem here with credit cards is typically companies don't keep the full credit card information. They'll typically keep only like 4 digits, and the rest is kind of, obscured or whatever, deleted or whatever. So I'm not sure if the details is going to be the entire card. If it is, this is stupid. This is 100% stupid. I would probably venture to guess this isn't the entire credit card. And if it is, then Crunchyroll's screwed. Like this is bad. This is like extremely bad. You just don't do that. But anyways, an employee of the outsourcing partner Telus had executed malware on his system, which gave a threat actor access to Crunchyroll's environment. So this is where we're getting into the details about exactly what happened. You have this company, this group, which is Telus. They were handling something for Crunchyroll, which I believe was the help center. And when they accessed some sort of malware on their system, that gave them that sort of door into the system, at which point they accessed the Crunchyroll's environment and got all the information from them. Now, they did a follow-up. They said additional information on the breach. According to threat actor, a spoofed email containing malware was sent to trick the outsourced employee. So this isn't a hacking situation, technically. This is just using a malware, probably a lot of social engineering to basically trick them into doing it. Send them an email and saying, hey, I got this problem with this thing. I'm having my problem with my Crunchyroll account. Here's the picture that shows what I'm seeing on my screen. They open that up. Malware triggers inside the system. They get the access. Once the malware was detonated, the threat actor obtained the victim's Okta credentials and managed to gain access to Crunchyroll. So again, they just got the credentials there and they just access the system. And they have some pictures here where they show the Crunchyroll Enterprise grid right here and all the different channels and whatnot within it. So again, sort of giving a little bit of credits to what they're claiming here. They actually got access to this. If we look back here on the 12th, which was when they were reporting this actually happened, they did have an announcement made by Telus that their systems were hacked. They told Reuters that they were investigating a cybersecurity incident involving unauthorized access to some of its system. The Shiny Hackers hacking group told Reuters in a message it stole at least 700 terabytes of data from Telus. All business operations within the company remained fully operational, and there was no evidence of a disruption to customer connectivity or services. Telus is working with cyber forensic experts to support its investigation and with law enforcement, and is notifying impacted customers as appropriate. The statement did not address what kind of data was stolen or how much. Samples of data shared by the hacking group with Reuters suggested stolen data includes information related to at least 24 companies that include personally identifiable information, call data and recordings, FBI background checks information, and source code spanning multiple business divisions within business services and telecommunications company. Reuters has not verified the authenticity of the data. So yeah, this kind of, again, unless they're sort of making a connection here in order to make their information sound more credible, this does kind of line up to this report that was made back here on March 12th of Telus themselves having some sort of incident, which does imply here that this isn't just Crunchyroll. This isn't just specifically Crunchyroll. Now, this could have been something that happened at the same time. That could have been a thing as well, but it does, again, kind of check that if they're reporting that they did this back on the 12th, that this kind of lines up. Yeah, right here. The threat actor told us the breach happened on March 12th. Crunchyroll revoked access after 24 hours. They also said that Crunchyroll is ignoring all messages and still hasn't publicly disclosed the breach. Again, there's the big concern there that if this is true, we're over 10 days away from this actually happening. And if there's personal information out there, Crunchyroll needs to let people know. So they can go out there to their credit card company, cancel the card if they're that concerned about the situation, or at least put some sort of watch on it, keep an eye out for it or whatever. Again, changing their information, possibly deleting their account if they feel this is like something that shouldn't actually happen. It is a concern, honestly. This is where the threat actor allegedly stole 100 gigabytes of Crunchyroll data, which also includes IP addresses. And so we have here sort of an example here where it shows all the names here, as well the distinct IDs, which I'm guessing would be the IPs themselves. They, of course, blurred it out, thankfully. But they also said any journalist wanting to verify the Crunchyroll breach data can contact us. We analyzed some sample JSON files exported from their Zendesk and found customer support conversations, user profiles, and significant PII found across structured fields and free text bodies. Either way, again, I don't doubt that this could be potentially something that actually happened. And again, there could be a reason why Crunchyroll themselves hasn't said anything yet. And again, that could be potentially because they didn't feel like they were actually breached. And this is only something that has recently come out. Either way, I'm hoping that with this sort of coming out, that there will be a statement made by them. Unfortunately, every time I contact Crunchyroll about situations like this, they never confirm. They don't even reply. Sometimes they'll say, hey, we'll look into it, and then crickets after that. But unfortunately, they don't really ever respond to my conversations with them to verify stuff like this, because I think this is something that should technically be told to customers. Again, if there's a threat here, there's a lot of information that could potentially be in this body of information that could lead to identity theft. It wouldn't be the first time that Sony themselves, being the parent company of Crunchyroll, has been involved in massive data breaches. But at the same time, it is nice to at least see that this is not technically Crunchyroll's fault. This looks like a third party that got social engineered, and that somebody got credentials from that social engineering and gained access to Crunchyroll through technically legitimate methods. But there's a lot of information here potentially that they could have pulled that, if true, is not so good. There shouldn't be any sort of credit card details available for some random support desk. But again, like I said earlier, it's not really a case of if this is true or not. It's more of an aspect of being informed, being aware of something like this happening. Keep an eye on your bank account information. Again, if you have a chance, change your password. It's never going to hurt to change your password. Don't do it too many times. And make sure to use a really good password. But this is sort of one of those moments of a wake-up moment and to be aware of this kind of stuff. I'll keep an eye out for this situation and see if anything does come up. I'll be curious if Crunchyroll does end up saying anything. If this ends up being bogus, they will never say anything. But if this potentially is something that did happen, I'll be curious about the fallout of it. But currently, I'm feeling like I'm feeling that there's a potential that some information could have been breached from Crunchyroll, but nothing like inside of their database, nothing significant to them that required them to say anything. Because I think if they did, they would have to say something. Like, again, legally, Crunchyroll has to say something. Otherwise, they will face massive fines. Like, massive, massive fines. Because, again, this is personal identifiable information. And this is something they're supposed to safeguard. And if they don't, they could face massive fines from the government. Anyways, hope you guys found this video informative. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, become a member. Until next time, y'all take care.